I'm here with Bogdan Darev.
Darev. Yeah.
Okay.
I know you're still learning Bulgarian.
The umlauted AE, right?
The what? Okay, let's try it again.
Darev. All right, everyone, we're here with Bogdan Darev.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, he's a filmmaker, artist, cinematographer, writer, an all-around cool guy. He is the mind behind Stars at Dawn's latest 3-part music video film, Listen. Yeah. Anything else I should add there?
Oh, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you here, man.
Yeah, actually. It's really great to be here.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Perfect.
Are you gonna play that song you told me about, or?
Oh, that one?
The intro song?
Maybe.
Okay.
I might.
So if you hear the song, then he chose to play it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the show that's never about magnets. We talk about stuff, but never about magnets. A pretty good show, and also fuck magnets. This is the show.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So, all right. So I think the way we should do this is just kind of make this as much like a conversation as possible.
Sure.
And I guess I've gotten a lot of questions about Listen, just from people who have watched the videos, and they're pretty deep. They're pretty deep films. I think, especially for music videos, which tend to be a little bit more shallow in their ideas. There's tons of layers, and the more that I watch them, the more things that I pick up. So I was just kind of wondering if maybe you could talk about what led you to make them, and also some of the inspiration, some of the ideas in Listen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe since you asked what led me to make it, I can start with this. I don't know how much people can see it. Maybe in that camera. This is the SSSR, Soviet Union logo.
Mm-hmm.
This medal here. I grew up in communist Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm.
And after the passing of the Patriot Act, I started seeing a lot of similarities. As you drink with this cup that has a gun, it's so awesome. Let people see it.
Yeah.
It just took me by surprise as I talk about Patriot Act and Soviet Union, and then
it's the in film, it's like the key, right? The visual cue. It's so they know that I'm a big shot.
Yes, you are.
There we go.
So I started seeing lots of similarities in terms of we were a society that was constantly under surveillance, and there was a lot of restrictions. And as I said, after the passing of the Patriot Act, I started seeing similarities here to what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that was some of the reason for making the film.
Right.
Some of the visuals in the film with actually, it doesn't look like this camera, but there is, when people watch it, they'll see a few people with 8mm cameras, and they're recording everything that's going on in the street. And that was, actually, we've gotten even further from when the film was made in 2009. Now it's 2021. And it's amazing how everything is everybody's being really watched. Right. Now people can make a decision, and they can say, well, that's the world we're headed into, and that is A-okay with me. Or people can ask questions and say, to what degree do we allow this to happen? And in the film, I chose to ask some of those questions.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons for. Actually, there was a Benjamin Franklin quote that opened the film, which we took out for the music videos, and I love how they play to your music, and I'm so happy that we went with that idea. And
Yeah.
for people watching, we can say that I was at first hesitant. I was planning to release the film because it really never had a release, and then you approached me, and I heard your music, and I said, well, should I tell him that I actually his music would be perfect and to release it in this way as music videos and it's 3 films, and I'm so happy that we went in that direction.
So, how long did Listen sit in the can between its completion and when we picked it up again?
Okay,
Yeah.
so we did a small release. It was on Vimeo in 2009, 2010, and we had a screening here in Seattle, but it wasn't really. I took it down from Vimeo a few years later, so it's just been sitting there waiting for the opportunity to be out again. And to me, it feels like this was the most perfect way for it to emerge.
Right. Yeah, it's quite a coincidence. Like,
or not a coincidence.
It is, yeah. It's very. They call it synchronicity, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's very interesting the way that happened. I sent you 3 tracks, and I said, hey, let's make some music videos for this. And you sent me back some footage, and you said, do you think these match? And in terms of the tone and kind of the texture of the music, the film and the music were just like perfect. And, people all think that they were made to be together.
Yes.
Which maybe they were, just not by us, like by the universe, right?
Well, yeah, I definitely, when you ask me about the inspiration behind it or how it was made, so that was the film that was made when my life took a detour for about a decade. I was working as a manager in a mall, in Red Robin in Bellevue Square Mall. So actually all the crowds that you see in the first part in the I Would song, all the crowds going in one direction, that was also my sensibility, if you will, just of working in the mall and seeing those people and seeing those crowds, and they're always just going with this. There is a purpose, but the purpose is really to buy.
Right.
And that to me, I wanted to express that in the film. And then actually the girl that you see in I Would and that she comes to life in the second music video was, again, I'm not sure how that idea was born, but the really interesting part is that after we filmed in that alley in Pioneer Square, for people that live in Seattle, we transformed Pioneer Square and alley in Pioneer Square in what you see in the music video.
Yeah, I thought it was filmed like
in Europe.
In Europe, yeah. I really did. I really thought like, because you're Bulgarian, I was like, this must have been filmed in Bulgaria somewhere. I'm just really like.
It's incredible, the magic of film, and we just had such a wonderful local crew of producers and people that we did a lot of tech scouting and talked to all the people that lived there, got all sorts of permission to put lights in different places, to get on the fire escapes, and then the production and costume design I think really added to that vibe. But I forgot even what the initial question was that you asked.
Oh, it was kind of the background and the history. And you were talking about coming from a communist background.
Yeah.
Kind of escaping that, coming here, and then seeing similarities in what was happening in this country. And to me, that's a really interesting part of the film. It's got kind of a communist vibe. But it's not really pro-capitalism.
No,
like
not pro-communism or pro-capitalism.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, this is like making a statement against communism. And then, you get a little further in the film and you're like, oh, actually, this is also about consumerism. And oh, actually, this is also about, what I felt is it was kind of about the way that people are very materialistic, and they've kind of lost sight of compassion and kind of like this connection that people have with each other.
Alienation. They're more alienated.
Yeah.
And I remembered also what I started saying is that the girl that's on the ground, I had different people say, hey, I actually witnessed that. People just walking by this person on the ground. And how many times do we do that when we see a homeless person that just sprawled out, and we never stop to really acknowledge or we've become desensitized to all of that. And is this the kind of society that we want to live in, and the kind of society we want to nourish?
Right.
And so those were some elements, and people will see there also in one of the shots, the person that's he's stamping leaflets with people of Jewish descent with the Stars of David.
I did notice that.
Yeah. So there is a lot of different, we created our own newspaper. Also, you got inspired to do a song, right?
I wrote 2 songs based on the newspaper clippings, which they're coming out soon.
Yeah. And then people will be able to see in the third song, which is called coincidentally Listen.
Yeah, so, which is just so the third song on the EP is called Listen, and the original film was called Listen. Yeah, just really mind blowing. And I think actually like the ideas in my music are very similar to the ideas you had.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in the crew and cast that saw it. So the first one I haven't. We released the second one and release it more to a wider audience. But saw the first one and really were blown away by how the two were coming together. And so I'm just ecstatic for what's happening.
What's also really interesting, what's kind of tripping me out, is how many people have contacted me and said they know people in the film.
Oh, that was this film. I feel so blessed, and as I started saying earlier, that it was after I was basically for not maybe 10 years, but for 7 years or so working in a corporate job, really to have my own restaurant and not really following my heart to make art. And then one day we were in a car and my then fiance said, I can't wait for you to wear a suit and have a tie and have your own restaurant. And then my stomach just turned, and that's when I knew that I needed to leave that life. And so that film came out of those years of me not following my path, my soul path. And in the second, I'm Not Alone, the second music video, I also think it's just so incredible. I'm not alone, and then you have these 2 people and the clock that's going really fast.
Oh yeah.
It's just like you said, it's just incredible how has come together.
There's this the shot. It's like a long shot that just kind of pans across, and they have the paintings there that are like set off.
Yeah.
And then it arrives at the female lead. Gorgeous. Like I was like, Yeah,
so we filmed this again, for people watching it in Seattle, and I don't know if the tours are still available, but we filmed this in the underground Seattle. So we got permission, Jacob Leander, one of the producers, got permission for us to film in there. And that was actually not part of the tour, but was still part of the underground Seattle. So the owner or the manager of the building let us film in that space.
Oh, that's amazing.
And as I said earlier, you said so many people commented on all the people that worked on the film. There was an incredible amount of people, maybe like 30 or 40 extras, and the crew was 30 or 40 people. And So do I call you Stars at Dawn or Brian? Did I give away some secret when I said Brian?
No, it's all over my bio on my website.
Okay, so I'll call you Brian for this purpose.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's all right. I just quickly, I think that the concept of Stars at Dawn too, it encompasses me, but it isn't exclusive to me. So I think, like for instance, when you put your art into it, you also became part of Stars at Dawn, right? Because so the idea of the Stars at Dawn is the stars are us, and we're kind of these beautiful things that just fade away. We're very transient.
At dawn, we fade away.
Yeah, we just.
That's beautiful.
I think so. So yeah, I'm Brian. But
Hi,
I am
Brian.
Stars at Dawn. Yeah.
I'm Bogdan.
Yeah, and you're Stars at Dawn too.
Yeah, and I'm Stars at Dawn.
And you're Stars at Dawn.
That's wonderful. And his music is really amazing. I'm not just saying this, but it's just so incredible. Every song you send me, and it's like, hey, listen to this, and every song just sounds so different. And we have plans for more music videos, and ideally we'll get people to also support your art and support this financially, so that we can bring this incredible art to more and more people. It's really fantastic. But what I started saying before I asked how to refer to you is that all of these people that worked on the film worked for free.
Wow.
It was really such a blessing. And it was such an excitement, because we were doing something very different, very special. We were filming on the first Red One camera. So for people that don't know, that's before this digital age of cameras. Up until 2007, 2008, there wasn't a digital camera that could replicate or come close to the feeling of film and filming on film. And I look at what we did in 2008 is when it was filmed. What we did, and I love the look and this camera and the way that the feeling, and it does. Even some cameras, I would argue that nowadays don't look as close to film as that Red One camera did back then. And actually, I waited to make to shoot a film on digital, because there was no digital camera that would come close to film, and film was expensive for us to do this kind of.
Right.
When people watch this and see the production value, they'll see what we mean. But also, what was really interesting is that we filmed it on the Red One. And then we also used 8mm camera. So the cinematographer Matthew was like, "It's amazing. We're going from, to this new breakthrough technology and 8mm." And it was so cool to mix both.
Yeah, those are the eyes of the man, right?
Those are the people that are recording, and
every time we get those shots, I feel like, oh, this is the system like monitoring everyone.
Making sure that everybody
is walking the right way and stamping the papers and
drinking the relaxio and the products so that they can.
I love that there's all of the product are, you've got the red one, the blue one, and the yellow one. And to me, that's like the way that every year there's like this slight iteration on, like, the next phone, right? The next iPhone, the next this, next that, right?
Oh, that's I didn't think of it in those terms, but that was...
But it's like literally the way it is, right? It's like, totally. We've got the blue one and the red one. Like, well, how which is better? Oh, the blue one, but that's going to cost you, man.
And I invite people who have seen maybe the first one or the second one, not all three, to watch the third one too, because to me, even though the third one is the most subtle, there is a lot of in there, like a resolution in a way that people will see. I won't give it away for people that haven't seen it, but
I am curious about whether the characters. I mean, of course, I have my own thoughts, but what do you think all of the characters represent in the film? Like I guess he's kind of like God. In the beginning of I Am Not Alone, the little girl, who I guess is like an angel, or maybe she represents time. She's walking with this man who's dressed in some interesting clothing.
It's Bulgarian inspired. Actually, I wore this. This is Bulgarian embroidery. And so some of those costumes were inspired by Bulgarian culture and folklore. So those in the second music video, the opening, they're dressed with some inspiration from that. We looked at different nomadic tribes and also worked in some elements of our culture.
That's great.
In it.
Yeah.
But so as far as your question in the representation, I mean, first and foremost, all the characters are a representation of me on one level or another. There was I believe now as a filmmaker, perhaps I'm more aware of the process and of what's going on, even though I would like to stay unaware to the process as well, so that I could watch it 10, 20 years from now and continue to make discoveries.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's kind of a balance between the two. And so in making Slušaj, I thought I had so much figured out in the way that it was planned and the way they were making. I said Slušaj, that's the Bulgarian word
For listen,
yes.
Right.
But in making Listen, there was so much, a whole different script, and it just kept changing. And I kept wanting to actually, after the first, I had such rigid ideas of how to film it. I hadn't filmed anything since 2002 of all these shots and storyboards. And then it just turned out to be something completely different. And so in answering your question, I think also the characters really evolved. I had some ideas of who they are, like Agrippa, who is the priest, with the staff that just kind of appears symbolically and walks through, and those were all casting choices before Black Lives Matter or anything like that. We had a Muslim man, which I don't think that actually made it in. Perhaps I think it did in the opening, where he is praying, and we had different variety of cultures represented, Bulgarians, Brazilians, and just really, and also different age groups. When people watch it, they'll see we actually had a wonderful upright bass player that didn't make it because it would have clashed with your music, Evan Flory Barnes.
He is in one scene though. Where they're walking down and he's playing.
Perhaps when they.
But we don't get to hear his playing.
Yeah, we don't get to hear it, but he was really incredible. Also to have be on set. So it's so all the characters are part of me, and then people really have a chance to give their own interpretations as they watch it. But the characters have now evolved. I'm writing a book based on that world. And so it's really fascinating to be inspired by those characters and to develop them further.
So someday, if this gets turned into like a TV series or something.
Say when the TV series happens.
Oh,
because this has been a dream of mine since I made the film and wrote a screenplay based on it, and then that transformed into a novel that I'm writing now, and it's an adventure novel with two teenagers and a kid as protagonists, but a lot of it is inspired by the film, and the world is also inspired by the film, though now it feels too close to home, I feel, so I have had to tweak and change and reimagine a future, maybe a more further ahead future.
How's it too close to home? Oh, just because society's progressed more.
Yeah, I think society's progressed more in that direction. And I mean, there is signs of hope and people waking up to the fact that there is no this constant buying and consumerism, or measuring how Christmas was by statistics of how much product was sold.
That is...
I mean, that's what it's how we measure the Christmas spirit,
Right.
But like,
how many billions did it do?
How many, how much did Target do and how much did Amazon do in sales? Oh, well, then the Christmas season was wonderful and yay.
I've never seen people more miserable than the week leading up to Christmas. I mean, it's funny because, in my mind, Christmas has a very special connotation. I mean, there's the time with family and this and the decorations, and that's all wonderful. But anytime you go to a mall during that time, you see people just totally stressed out. Everyone's rushing. I've seen people fight with each other, over like the last whatever, Tickle Me Elmo. Is nuts. Yeah. And I think that is a big part of society now, of this culture.
And we need to look much deeper in order to address that. And you were just sharing with me before we started today about your latest song and how you had breakthroughs as you were making the song. And to me, that's why it's so important for art to exist, for art to be taught in schools, not as a something that's like, oh, by the way, you can take music or drawing. No, it needs to be on the same level as mathematics, biology, or anything else. Music and art, because there's so many discoveries to make.
Yeah. I think an understanding I've come to with art and with music is that the creation of art is it can almost be like a meditation practice, or a spiritual path, or just a thing, a psychiatric treatment, and I kind of feel like the day that I'm done making art is probably the day I'll be enlightened. You know what I mean? Like that means I'll be done. There will be nothing left to investigate. I don't think it'll ever happen, but yeah, for me, art is like this process of internal discovery and reflection on the world, self-reflection. It's very useful. Yeah.
But it gives you the tools to express yourself when you're feeling the pain of the world, you're feeling the suffering, or you're feeling the joy, and then you have art through which you can express that, and so many people, there might be so many people relate to that, and there's people that don't find the ways to express what you're able to express in your art, in your music, in your lyrics, or what can be expressed in cinema.
Yeah.
And so it's very important, because it makes, just like your song, I'm Not Alone, it makes people feel that they're not alone. You're not alone in your experience of being a human on this earth. And it's okay, whatever you're going through, because I'm going through it as well.
Yeah, I think that's true, yes.
Do you want to talk about each one, to just kind of each song?
Yeah, we can talk about that and kind of relate it to... Do you want to relate it to the film, or do you want to just dig into like the music?
Yeah, the music and the film. Yeah, we can talk about both. You can...
Yeah, so before I kind of get into like what the songs mean, I want to kind of clarify that I really believe in the death of the artist. So just because I say, oh, this is what the song is about, I really believe that I actually don't know what the song's about. I think that that's what the listener that's their job, right? Like I bring something into the world, and then once people listen to it, I kind of die. I fade away like the stars at dawn. And then they extract the meaning from the art. But the inspiration behind that is, this was me dealing with my fear of trying to do art. I've always produced. I've always been a bedroom DJ, playing guitar and recording things. For years I just would go around and record sounds and change them and do these things. But this was like, I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna actually let people listen to my work, and I'm gonna be vulnerable. And that was me dealing with the process, and kind of dealing with my anxiety and my frustration and my fears. Especially now, I think it's really scary now to be a public person.
Why do you say now? It's
if you listen, musicians in the past, if they the opinions that they would hear would be probably from the newspaper, right? And that would be a reviewer. So maybe you get one person who says, "Oh, you're garbage," or your work is not very good, or it's derivative, or you're tempting children with the devil, whatever people wrote about the musician, it would come from a single source, and you'd have to read the paper, right? And then out on the street, most people aren't going to come to your face and give you bad feedback, right? But now, if you put something on YouTube, you're just going to get
giving permission to people to
everything, I don't necessarily think people are are bad. I just think, I mean, bad's not a good word. I think maybe people, when they're looking through the screen, when they're plugged into the internet, there's this separation, and they aren't recognizing that the entertainers or the musicians or the artists that they're, giving feedback to, they don't realize that those are real people. So it's a very weird time to be a public person.
But you have to get accustomed to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is just kind of being all right with that. Just knowing who you are and realizing that YouTube comments are YouTube comments, right? They're not meaningful. So that was I Would. And Listen was, or I Am Not Alone. This song I wrote when my wife was here in the U.S. No, reversed. We've done this a few times. I was in the U.S. and she was in China, and we weren't able to see each other for many months. And this was me feeling the loneliness and kind of like feeling alone, very much alone here. So before I was doing this, I was a street dancer in China, right? And at some point I kind of realized, I need to actually start making an income. So I came back here, went back to school, got into tech work, which has been, very fulfilling in some ways. And so during this time, I was just completely alone and feeling this like weight, this like I have to start making money. I can't just dance on the street forever, So that's what that song is about.
Will you bring dancing to the street to performing live? Would you perform live, right? I mean, you want to perform live. Is that something that you've thought about?
I think so, but there's a question of like how I'm going to do that, because there's a lot of strange like sound design that I'm going to have to figure out how to represent that in a live format. And also finding the right musicians
to do it with.
I don't want to do a DJ set, just mainly because my music doesn't mix very well. I could do it. I could figure out a way to make it like that. But I like the idea of having a real performance, real instruments being performed. That's exciting to me. And big spectacle.
Yeah, like dance moves.
Dancing, yeah. No, I owe a lot to the dance community.
Yeah, I bet. I'm not joking when I ask this, because you could look back at your life and when you were doing it, you could say you don't know why you're doing it, but then maybe a few years ahead of now or next year, or you do a concert and you're like, whoa, this is why I went through all of this, because it's really informing me and it's now making me be at ease on the stage. And
and also most people don't realize this, but hip hop is actually really deep. I mean, like the there's the shallow side of hip hop, but like the deep roots of hip hop is very much about speaking your truth and about kind of radical self-expression and originality and flow state. Like if you see someone rapping, they're in a flow state. They're actually they even call it flow, right? And the same is true for dancing. So in hip hop, there's the different aspects of it. And, I've always felt very at home and welcome in that community, but also very much kind of like an orphan or an outsider. And I had very wonderful teachers, who did it for free. They did just in their passion. So one of my kind of dreams is as my music gains popularity, I'd like to give back to that community, and hire these people.
Oh, that would be so amazing.
It'd be great. Yeah.
I'm stoked. We should do a music video with them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That would be
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah. And the thing that's amazing is there's great dancers that I know all over the world, in China, in Japan, Korea, the United States, Colombia, all of these people, is like the world is full of incredible dancers and they all, I'd love to give them all a stage if I can. That would be great.
That would be. And just before you talk about the next song, it's so interesting what you said about I'm Not Alone, because in the music video, in those scenes, it really is those two people coming together that you wonder whether or not they live in different realities. Is it a memory? What is it? But it's all about realizing that you're not alone. And
I really related to there's the scene where he has the watch in his hand and she kind of shuts it and like pushes it down and looks at him. I really felt that because I think a lot of people feel time anxiety. They feel this stress of like, oh my God, like my time is running out. Someday I'm gonna die. I'm in my 30s. I haven't made it yet, or whatever it is they're worrying about. Right. I think everyone feels a lot of anxiety from time, and what the female lead did by kind of saying, don't worry about this. It's very nice.
Time for me is, I'm fascinated with time. And the novels and what will be the TV series eventually actually is the second novel is they travel back in time, the characters, and I'm really exploring that. It's not going to be ordinary time travel movie, but just a lot of it, or writing, a lot of it is focused on self-realization through traveling back to your past, to making distinctions of what happened and how are you living in this world from those places and things that happen in your life, and just ideally really empowering the younger generations to not be in their 40s or 50s and then realizing, oh my God, I can be free.
Right.
I just have to. You can't make anybody they have to desire to be free or to want to be on that path. But hopefully, like your music or the writing that I'm doing right now can provide the tools, if you will, or the glimpses that people say, oh, wow, this is possible and this is possible. And this is possible.
That's the dream, right? I think any artist, their greatest goal, their greatest fantasy is to have one person, listen to their thing or look at their thing and then have their life changed for the better. Like that's a really amazing possibility.
Yeah, and I look at it like we're passing a baton, like a life force, if you will, or whatever it is. And so you as the artist, you pass it on to the person that comes into contact with your art, and they take it and they do something with it, and then they pass it on in somebody else's life, and it's just this beautiful movement of energy and expansion that happens. Yeah,
I think actually this is a question I wanted to ask you, because at least in music right now, it's in some ways very hard to be a musician, to make a living doing this. There was a time when if you wanted to be a sound engineer, for instance, you could just, if you had the skills, you could get a job, right? And now a lot of studios are struggling. The budget for producing an album is not great unless you're a top A-lister. But in other ways, this is one of the best times to be a musician and an artist, because it's so easy to have a large audience and to reach people. And I guess my question that I wanted to ask you is, do you think this is a good time or a bad time to be an artist? That's a big question. So
Well, if you were to ask Michelangelo or the great directors that have inspired me, the great painters in the world, is it a bad or a good time? I don't know if there's an answer to that, because you just have to create, and that's that. And
it's not a choice.
It's not really a choice. If you have to make the choice, then perhaps, maybe, I don't know, if you have to make the choice, to what degree, to what degree you can actually survive to continue to do this. And many people don't survive. I mean, they take their own lives. They just go down horrible paths. So, I mean, but then to answer the question to a certain degree, in terms of technology, it's an amazing time to be an artist, because it's been democratized.
That's true. It's not kings.
No, I mean, what we filmed and what people see is we edited it at home with my friend Evan. And then I re-edited some of it again at home just recently on DaVinci Resolve. Right. So it's just incredible. The industry probably for music is the same. It's really democratized, and it's you can really create. But the problem is the internet is so saturated with content that then you can't really, like, how do you even stand out in all the noise? Where we come in as creating these collaborations, and what I believe in is that my audience is your audience is my audience for my future films and works, because we just vibrate on this same level and same sensibility. And I think this is the answer, is for people to come together like that, more and more, to form community like that, so that we can't aim to reach millions and millions of people. That would be wonderful if it happens, but we can imagine just reaching 100,000 or 10,000 to be wonderful.
That's true.
We just have to connect to our audience. I think it's very important to be connected to your audience.
I was thinking about what you just said about standing out, and one of the things that I think is interesting about Listen, the film, not the song, is that it's very quiet, and I feel like if you're in a room full of people screaming, maybe being quiet is a good way to stand out. You know what I mean? So it takes its time, the ideas are developed, and it's deep. Like, you have to watch it a number of times to pick up all of these subtle things, which is the exact opposite of most of the media that we're kind of saturated with.
And I really appreciate what you said about music, and that you die off as the artist, and because this is actually a big difference between European cinema and US cinema is just in that cinema in Europe, like, the everyday person was embraced. I mean, there was lots of instances where Bergman would film something, and then the camera would just linger on two characters that you never again see in the film, but they just talk about something in life, and then you include life, so your life is included in your work. And then the endings, a lot of the endings of European cinema were open-ended endings, where you don't know, you're left to make your own interpretations, you're left to be the characters, and not all the answers are given. And to me, that's like you said about your music, it's art is a dialogue,
right?
And it's so, hopefully we can preserve that, and people can even educate younger audiences. I taught school for 3 years, young kids, and I saw 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, how they reacted to sharing with them curated content from the internet. And they were like, wow, this is amazing, but because they never shown it or they don't know how to find it, they don't know, again, we're coming back to the possibility, they don't know that there exists a whole different world of how you accept and take in art.
Yeah, it's there's a trend in music. It's changed subtly over the years, but in the old days, people would get like a vinyl. They'd get the album and they'd listen to it, and then it was tape, and then CDs. Then people started burning their CDs. Then they had iPods, right? And now you have like a Spotify playlist. And what's been happening is, in some ways, it's good because people aren't stuck in genres anymore. So people, I see people's playlists and they have, like Nirvana, and then they have like show tunes from the 30s, vaudeville stuff. And they have all of these things together, and that's great. But the other side of this is that a lot of people are only hearing like the top 10 songs that come out. And, it used to be that if you got a hit song and you heard that, you'd get the album and then you would hear the 11 other songs, right? And oftentimes you would discover as a listener, like, oh, actually, this is the song that speaks to me. So this is the big one. This is the moneymaker. This is the title track. But actually, this is the one that's like my soul. This is my heart. And that's been lost for the most part. There's a reason why I'm doing EPs and not albums. There's too much noise, right? So it's better to release a few things at a time, I think, than to just drop 12 tracks. Even though if you could get people to listen to it, you could tell a much richer story, right? It's like a longer movie. Got more time, more film. But that's what.
Well,
so we work around it.
And we do our part in educating, like I said, the younger generations to know that exists and that can be there. How about the third? We didn't get to the final, to the listen. The third song. Listen is
me whining. It's just frustration about So like a good example is most people think climate change is an issue. No one does anything about it, right? We've got a huge homelessness population in Seattle and throughout the United States and the world. No one is doing anything about it, or they're trying.
Things are happening.
But it's not. It doesn't seem like the kind of behavior that people that really wanted to solve the problem would exhibit, right? You'd think that, these kinds of big problems, like just the idea that you have, millions of people that are suffering, right, around the world, it's like, that's a big problem. And so there's like wider issues, but also inside, people are always chasing happiness, but they're not really addressing the root of the problem, so it's always out of their grasp. Like one of the lines in there is the more that you have, the less that you get. I'm not just talking about getting like things. I'm also saying it's the less that you get. You're not. It's like I think about the story of the Buddha, right? And it's like that was a king. He was a prince and he had everything. He was like this incredibly wealthy individual, and he just was unhappy. And of course, that led to this, journey of self-discovery, and then it turned into a religion, and But I think that's not a unique story. I think every person is actually going through that same struggle. And that's kind of what Listen is about. It's just me saying, hey, listen to me. Everything is a little wonky, and everyone is not doing anything about it. And I'm frustrated. So that's Listen.
Yeah, that again fits, I think, the third part of the story that people will see. And we actually didn't call the film Listen until maybe the 4th day of filming. And that film really taught me the value of listening. Of course, there's a lot more to listening than now that I see that there is to listening. But just to stop and listen, and to let that listening inform your next action versus you having preconceived ideas of how you're supposed to act without even listening first, which is not easy to do.
Yeah.
So
I think if you don't listen, you're just reacting. But if you listen, you can respond.
Yeah, and most of us, just a lot of the times, if we don't stop and really pay attention to ourselves and our habits and thoughts, we're just reacting. Even when we're listening, we're always like planning ahead of. It happens very quick, so you're not very aware of it. But
it's.
So it's.
Have you ever met someone that is very clearly, like, they're mostly their habits? Do you know what I mean? Like I think if you don't do at least some of that work, if you don't like look inside of yourself, you end up going down this path of like almost everything you do is just a reaction. It's just like, when they say like, oh, this person's triggered. Well, sometimes some people, their entire lives are the trigger. They're just, everything they do is trigger. They don't even know why they're doing it. It's just.
Yeah. I was one of those people for a long time. For my first 30 years, or even I'm 44 now, but even until recently, discovered so many triggers and ways that I was living out of a place of just reaction and of some beliefs that were not serving me, and likely will continue to realize that, and hopefully can be more in the space of just listening and being, and then really enjoy that, just have that joy from being in that space. So we covered a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be good for you to maybe like separate them in smaller chunks, because as you said, nowadays, probably not many people, unless we already had millions and millions of fans, they'll probably sit there and watch the whole half hour of Bogdan and Brian talking. But,
it's interesting. This is like a thing where there's like the content is getting shorter and shorter, but then there's other stuff that's getting longer and longer. So there's a lot of debates that happen online. And on Twitch, people have discussions that last like 5 hours.
Wow.
And people tune into that.
Following that.
So I think it's kind of like the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
It's like, it's gone so extreme one way that it's turning over. And now we're entering the other extreme.
Yeah, people want longer forms of being in the presence of each other.
Well, I think at some point, there's only so much meaning you can extract from like short clips and snippets. And I think like at some point, people begin to notice that they're getting a lot of information, but very little understanding. Like that, I think people thirst for that. Right? It's part of our survival is to understand what's happening around us. And if you're just listening to like 8-second TikToks or whatever, you're not going to get very deep.
Yeah, that's bound to change. And I actually can't wait to get behind the camera again. And one of my dreams has been to continue to explore these longer shots. And that's something with this film is I went in with these ideas of, we're going to cut this way and cut that way. And then it just ended up being this, like you said, the second and the third, you see these long shots. And that's when after the first day of filming, I wanted to, at lunch, I wanted to quit. I went by myself and I raised my head up and was like, God, why did you put me in this situation? I cannot do this. This is insane. Show me a sign. And then I come out of the lunch break and we filmed in, I think it was April, and then it was hailing and like almost like snowing. It got so cold. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Like I asked for a sign and then I get hail and it was just, and we had to stop. And so I had to rethink because we were so far behind schedule. We had 5 days to film that I had to rethink the entire approach and decided for day 2, 3, 4 to go with these much longer shots. And luckily we had wonderful, TJ Williams, a wonderful operator, Steadicam operator and crane. And so we were able to really go for longer shots. And I'm getting back to this that I really appreciate cinema that it's taking its time. That it's taking its time to set up characters, to set up the story, to set up the atmosphere so that you feel that you're in this other world, that it transports you there. And that's how I fell in love with films in the 80s and 90s and just discovering those types of films. And I think that there is a place for them, and it's going, like you said, people are already hungry for that, and they want that cinema where they can completely lose themselves in the images. So
so should we?
Yeah, we can wrap it up and thank you for watching.
Thanks everyone. Bogdan Darev, filmmaker. Didn't pronounce your name right.
No,
again.
It's fine. It's totally fine. Yeah, and we can tell people can find out more about me on filmaby.com, and that's something where they can find out new music and something that we want to develop together as a community. Yeah. The platform also bogdandarev.com.
Yeah, and I'll have those in the comments.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Down there, that's how we do it.
Yeah, and starsatdawn.com.
Yeah, like starsatdawn.com.
Like starsatdawn.com.
I'll link that, and like and subscribe, because that's the world we live in.
Yeah, let's make some more music videos. Yeah, and I wish for you to make music full time, to quit your day job, and to just really, really submerge in that. So from the bottom of my heart,
I'm trying. I'm trying as hard as I can.
Yeah. So you deserve it.
Thank you.
And the world deserves to have your gifts.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot to me. And the same to you.
Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Perfect.